All right. Welcome back to the Behind the Food podcast, everybody. Today we have Dylan and Joey with us from Underdog. I'm a really big fan of your guys' brand, and I still haven't tried the product, which makes me sad. I need to change that. Uh,
We'll get you
but I
some
guess,
product.
like, please get me some. I I wanted to ask you guys first because I kind of start every interview off with this question. What made you guys want to start a beverage brand? I mean, there are like thousands of energy drinks out there. I feel like there's a new one like every couple months that pops up. What was it that like motivated you guys to be like, we can do something better, and also we feel like we have something that people are going to want that's unique.
Yeah, it's actually funny too because I was just sending Dylan yesterday our first samples that we got of our first product that we were going to launch. It was a powdered pre-workout back in 2020 when we first started formulating and figuring out our entrance into the supplement space. It was really grounded in our roots in hockey. Like we're both former college hockey players, lifetime athletes in general, and the supplement space was something that we wanted to get into. We're avid fitness goers and gym junkies. That's why we landed on that pre-workout powder initially that we wanted to do. And this was right when Celsius and Bang Energy were kind of all the rave, and they were first really making that climb in the non-alcoholic space, beverage space, back in the 2020, 2021 range. So we spent about a year and a half formulating. We thought we could do it better. You know what I mean? I think, and it still holds true today, there are a lot of energy drink brands that are naturally flavored and colored, but they're still using artificial sweeteners like sucralose. And I think that was where we were really grounded in. It's like, okay, we're going to bring a completely transparent, trustworthy product that is also effective. So that's why we ended up launching Underdog Energy in the fall of 2022. And you're right. I mean, since then, it feels like, an energy drink has popped up every other week. And we can dive more into it too, but we're adapting, we're pivoting in certain ways to really find a great product portfolio that we can scale simultaneously alongside the energy drink.
So what were you guys doing before you started the brand?
Well, that would have been so in 2019 is when we launched the brand as a clothing brand. Actually, that's how we started. We played junior
Really?
hockey together. Yeah. We started off as like a motivational clothing brand. It was like graphic tees with motivational quotes on the back. Really, the goal behind it was to bring together a community of like-minded individuals, hockey players specifically, and that was what what we saw from the general journey of a hockey player is like trials and tribulations, right? And everybody can resonate with the underdog story, especially athletes. So that's where it was really where the idea really came about. But we realized we wanted to have a more tangible impact. I mean, at that point in time in 2019, there was thousands of clothing brands out there, and we're like, we want to have an actual impact on these athletes. So that's why we decided to get into the performance beverage space.
You're the second founder I've talked to that had a clothing brand prior to, which their brand is technically not their clothing brand from before, but you are the second
Okay.
founder on this podcast that's been like, yeah, I had a clothing brand, and then we made food,
Okay.
which apparently that's a path. That's a thing that could happen.
Yeah.
So did you guys both grow up playing hockey?
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in Alberta, so being
Nice.
Canadian, I mean every kid plays hockey. If you don't, if you're that kid that plays soccer or something, like you're kind of like you're on the outside. Like everyone plays hockey growing up. So, no, played our whole lives up until last season when we graduated.
When you guys were playing, were you guys like searching out like an energy drink or like pre-workout that you could use? Is that like kind of like part of how this came about? Is like y'all were like in the locker room, like or like in the weight room, and you're like, what are we supposed to do? Like reading the label, you're like, this stuff's trash. Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, so when Joey and I started formulating in 2020, that was our last year of junior hockey together. And I mean, really, it started our 19-year-old year, so second last year. But that was when Bang was like massive. Every kid, 16 and up had a Bang in their hand, and like, yeah, you flip around the can, you're like, what am I drinking here? So that was kind of the start of it. But yeah, for Joey and myself, it was definitely on the pre-workout side in particular. I think Bangs and like the drinks were more guys coming in pre-game, and then Joey and I were definitely big into the pre-workout space for our training. So like our typical schedule when we were playing juniors, we'd work out in the morning and have our training in the morning, and then we'd skate in the afternoon for team practice, and then there'd be open ice. So we were always experimenting with different pre-workouts prior to our training in juniors. So yeah, we had tried pretty much everything under the sun. And I think that's really where it stemmed from, with us building our formula and kind of playing around with what ingredients are we going to have in it, what amounts of each ingredient are we going to put in it. And that was just from, pulling bits and pieces of different brands that we liked. We're like, okay, we really like this certain ingredient or this amount, but this brand uses, XYZ that we don't like. And that was really kind of where it all stemmed from and how it started.
So I have a
Honestly, it
question
feels
about
like,
that.
yeah, go for it.
So you landed on the stack of ingredients, right? Just really quickly go through that, like that list of what those like nootropics or what those ingredients are, because I'm curious.
Yeah, Joey and I always laugh at this. We actually found the old Google sheet from one of our bus trips. Like when we were, we'd have a 9-hour bus trip to Johnstown or down to Baltimore, and we would work on Google Docs and just have it was just all like our brainstorming before we even had a product. And our original formula was it was something ridiculous. And, now that we're more involved in the business space, obviously we realized that would just never come to fruition in terms of a cost standpoint. It'd be like $100 to make a tub, but that was our wish list.
It's like a
our
protein
dream
scoop.
Yeah, yeah. I think our first sample was like 25 grams. We're like, this is legit the size of a protein scoop. So, yeah, but we narrowed it down, and that's ultimately kind of where our formula, comes from. But yeah, the main ones that we obviously have now is we wanted to have like a fast acting and the slow release caffeine. I think that was something big. The dicaffeine malate, or the patented version of it, Infinergy, more common in the powdered pre-workout space, but no one had ever done it in a drink. And it was like, okay, that's a real way to differentiate ourselves, offer something different. That's probably the biggest negative connotation that you get with energy drinks, is that, that dreaded crash. And so like, okay, if there's an ingredient that we can kind of pull from the powdered pre-workout space, implement it into, the ready to drink, like that could be a real difference maker. So that was kind of one piece of it on, the stimulant side of things. And then obviously the nootropics, kind of like what we talked about before, Daniel, is like nootropics kind of became a buzzword in the space, and finding ingredients that also help with the focus and, cognitive side of things, and not just like getting jacked up on stimulants. So exploring stuff like alpha GPC and lion's mane, which are the two we use, but we also looked at doing like choline supplements like Cognizin, for example. So those were some of the ones that we really started to look at, and obviously some of the amino acids like citrulline. So we have 4 grams of citrulline in the formula today, but our original formula, which I'm actually drinking one of them now, this guy here has 3.2 grams of beta alanine, and that's like a true pre-workout ingredient. So that was really how it started. And yeah, the list was probably what, Joe, like 15 functional or like performance ingredients to start, and we whittled it down to 7 when we originally launched, and now we have the 5. But yeah, that was kind of the list that we started to pull from and narrow down, and going back and forth of, okay, why should we include this one? Why should we maybe cut this one out? What amount? Like everything kind of factored into it.
Yeah.
So obviously you ended up with like a cost cap, right? Did you end up like, were you narrowing down to a cost, or were you trying to also get to like, hey, this is what actually works out of this like stack of like however many we started with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a little bit of both, but one thing that and the reason why we kind of, made some iterations to our formulation is just based on the feedback that we were getting from customers. I mean, we leaned heavily on demos and samplings, like especially early on. And when we got our first retail opportunities, I mean, when we launched into Hannaford, I mean, we did like 300 plus demos in the span of like three or 4 months, right? So for a smaller brand and having not a ton of manpower, like that's a lot of work, a lot of demos, a lot of feedback that you can get. And we always wrote notes down when we were doing demos, like what people were noticing right away, and it was always the time release caffeine and the nootropics and the lion's mane specifically. So that was just kind of something that we took into consideration as we were moving forward. And the ingredients that weren't talked about very much, we did a cost analysis on it, figured out, okay, how much is this costing us every production, and at what point is it like it's not talked about enough to even bother including it in the formulation. So I think that was kind of Dylan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was how we came to the conclusion of our current formulation that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we kind of, the first formula that we launched with the 7 performance ingredients, it was feasible, we can make this work. When we got into, like, even that formula had tweaked somewhat from what we thought we were going to launch with. Once we really got into like the solubility standpoint, like we weren't using a lion's mane mushroom extract to start. We were using like essentially the whole mushroom powder and dehydrated powder, and it just wasn't soluble. Like it wasn't staying in solution. So we're like, okay, like we got to change some of this. But yeah, even when we revamped, that would have been like the summer of 23 to our current formula, it was like, that was some of the things we weighed out. Beta alanine was obviously one. When we got our opportunity in Hannaford, we're like, okay, we don't need general population people, drinking 3.2 grams of beta alanine and not knowing what to expect or what that ingredient does or what it's for. So that was a big piece to why we removed the beta alanine. But ATP was another one, like great pre-workout ingredient, great for the athletic population, but it was never once talked about at a sampling or anything like that. So we're like, okay, is it really worth it? It's expensive to include. Like, we can make our bottom line a lot better if we remove it, and does it really affect the integrity of our product? Like, when we weighed it out, no, like no one noticed it, no one talked about it, so it didn't really get appreciated like we thought it would.
I think one thing a lot of people don't talk about when they're formulating these beverages, you guys know this, you already kind of alluded to it, was suspending these actives, right? So that it stays suspended in the beverage and doesn't collapse to the bottom, right? And as you add more and more of them, there's a maximum you get to where you just can't suspend any more actives in this. So when you had those 15, I imagine it was really difficult to like actually get that to hold like in suspension at all, right?
Oh God, yeah, yeah, and that was why we had the powdered pre-workout first with that formula. This is never going to work in a ready-to-drink form. Like it's just not. It's meant to be thrown in 8 ounces, 16 ounces of water.
Yeah, you need like a 30-ounce can to,
yeah,
to have any of that be solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was definitely a problem, and we even had problems with certain ingredients. We used a different form of alpha GPC in one of our runs, and it caused a settling out. It just wasn't as soluble in water, and that was something that we learned. It's part of the process, and like you said, with the lion's mane, that was one that we obviously saw beforehand. We're like, okay, we got to do something about this. But yeah, you get to that kind of maximum level where it's like, okay, this just isn't feasible in a 12-ounce can. But yeah, you live and you learn.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I feel like it's so interesting that you guys started from a point of kind of like biohacking it. Like you were like, here are all the things that I'd love to like have in a drink. And then it was just so many that it's like, well, we're not making 32-ounce cans. So let's see what we can actually pack in here. It's really cool. And Daniel, you read my mind because I was like, well, wanted to go down that like line of thinking. I'm just like, there's so many different variables to picking the stuff that you guys actually ended up with. But it's interesting that you pointed out like it was mostly like customer feedback, and then also just thinking logically about the fact like, hey guys, like you probably don't want like pre-workout in your energy drink. I mean, maybe you do. I might, but like not like the random person that picks it up off the shelf.
Beta
Exactly.
alanine is
So
fun, just so funny to me. Like I could imagine somebody who's never touched it before crack
Yeah,
it
and it's
open.
like triple the amount that a C4 has, too, like 3.2 grams. So it's like, you got 50, 60-year-olds in Hannaford grabbing a cleaner alternative energy drink, and they got 3.2 grams of beta alanine in there. We're like, we got to fix this. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh! Did you get any feedback from those people? Like I loved, like oh my gosh, that must have been so funny.
Yeah.
I'd love to see someone drink it.
We had some people in the early days, even teammates. The people that we were primarily selling to were gym owners and obviously people involved in the hockey space, just because that's where Joey and I kind of came from and grew up with it. So they were more accustomed to it. But even some of our teammates who had like never had pre-workout, they're like, my skin's crawling, like I'm scratching my ears. We're like, dude, you're gonna be okay. Like, you're gonna be fine.
Why am I so hot?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, dude, that's a sign that you need to go do something right now. Like, today is the moment. Like at this very time.
Pick something up heavy right now.
Yeah, and it's interesting
So-
too, because like when we first launched, like that was who we wanted to go after, was like that gym
Yeah.
audience, and that was how we started initially. Was like we were going door to door to all the local gyms, hockey like junior programs across the Northeast and all that kind of stuff. But what we realized too is like when we were selling into these gyms, being a smaller brand with not much brand notoriety or awareness, amongst the spectrum of energy drinks that there are, it was like people aren't in a buying mindset when they're going into a gym, right? They're going there to work out. They're walking in with their pre-workout, with their energy drink. So us using that as a brand awareness tool was kind of conflicting with our initial marketing plan. So we had to kind of transition. Then we started going door to door with convenience stores, and we saw a significant change in terms of sell through. Monthly revenue was going up, and that was when the whole process really started of like transitioning more to this functional beverage instead of just a pre workout, a ready to drink pre workout.
That makes a lot of sense, man. I was gonna ask you guys, like, once you had the formula, like once you sort of figured it out, what was your so like did you guys initially like go to find a co-man, and then like what'd you do with all the cans once they were like, yeah, we have the cans ready for you? Like what was that like when you first launched?
It was honestly the first. It probably couldn't have gone any worse when we first launched. Our first run. We had a co-packer down in Georgia. Actually, is where we did our first production. Just made sense. The MOQs were there for us to do a smaller run. That was one thing. First hurdle that we ran into was just like MOQs that we were looking at. Like we didn't have the initial capital. It was bootstrapped. Top to bottom, basically for our first run. We scoured everywhere for every penny we could find just to get the first production off the ground. But our first issue that we had is we had a spelling mistake on our cans on our first run that we had, and we didn't realize it until we were Dylan, like a week or two out from production.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like it ultimately falls on us, but like designer sent it over, and it was spelt right correctly on a previous iteration of the design. Sent it over, and we're like, yeah, like looks good.
What was spelled wrong?
It was serving. It was I don't know if I have any. We kept a few of them. If
Yeah,
I have them now, but
probably one of the most important things too, right on the
yeah,
label.
the N and the G were just flipped around. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
that was kind of the first nightmare.
So
But
did you
continue
guys did you
on.
guys leave it? Did you leave
we
it?
Yeah,
just we were gonna scrap
Let's go.
the we were gonna scrap it. We were gonna scrap the cans because we sourced all the ingredients to the co-man down in Georgia. Everything was all set to go. Cans were already there, and we were, basically contemplating scrapping the cans and doing a whole new can production. But it would have cost us, like, for us at that time, it was a lot. It was like 10 grand, I believe, right, Dylan? It was like
yeah,
$10,000 we had
yeah. Just
on the
shy. Yeah,
cans, and we were like, we can't do that. Like that's too big of a bullet to bite. So we just ran with it, and we just got through it as fast as we possibly could. Made sure that there were no. Now everything we look at is like, okay, everything's spelled right. Even to present day, it's like we make sure we look over everything like 10, 12 times to make sure everything's spelled correctly. That was the first thing, and then I guess you learn a lot through the manufacturing process. I'm sure, as you guys know, like it's a very tedious process, logistically too, just to make sure everything goes smoothly. And we showed up down in Georgia for our first run, and first of all, like you see your cans going down the line, it's like the coolest thing ever. You know what I mean? You see your idea, your concept, your vision really come to life in person, and it was. I remember like we looked at each other, we were like, "This is the craziest thing ever!" Like we have an actual tangible product in our hand now. But we basically lost. To make a long story short, that first run we did 20,000 can run, and we lost about 20% of our inventory through production. Basically, the lids on top of the cans weren't sealing properly, so very small amount was coming out. So essentially, it was the carbonation. Because some of them were going flat. You squish the can; it's not pressurized or anything like that. So that was kind of our initial issue, and then we realized that we had to find a better co-man, better co-packer
we had a
moving
few other
forward.
issues along the way
Yeah,
with the pallet of empty cans that tipped over in the truck, and they pull it
yeah,
out,
yeah.
and we're like, "What happened to those? Like those aren't our cans." But yeah, they were. Yeah, so we lost like a whole pallet of cans, and then one of the
Sucks.
hoses blew off on the actual like on the line where the cans get filled. One of the hoses blew off, and yeah, so everything had to
He's like, this
stop and
never
get
happens.
fixed.
We were like,
Yeah, yeah,
I feel like this happens all the time, sir.
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Oh my
So that
god.
was quite the experience. It was also quite the trip too. So at this point, we were sophomores in college when we did our first production run. So full on, you know, full on academic schedule. We had just started the hockey season. This was in October 2022. So season was just kicking off. We flew down on a Friday night to Georgia. Got in like the middle of the night. Got up a few hours later, went to production like 6 a.m. Saturday morning, and we had to book a special like Saturday line time because it was literally the only time we could make it work. Production went all day Saturday. We flew back Saturday night, got in Sunday morning to our campuses because at the time we weren't even going in the same school, and went to class Monday morning like it was a regular Monday. So it was a
It's
crazy,
wild.
crazy experience.
Like, what'd you guys do over the weekend? Well, we went to the party. What'd you guys do? Well, something
Yeah,
else.
Yeah.
yeah,
Making
yeah,
cans of stuff in Georgia. That's wild.
yeah.
So once you guys like finally got product, what was the strategy? You'd mentioned this a little bit, but like you guys are going to gyms door to door and then going to convenience stores. Um, what was that process like? And like, how did you guys know to do that? I mean, honestly, at like such a young age, like neither of you guys were exactly like experienced in like
Yeah,
anything at that point.
yeah.
Like how did that process go?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I think our initial plan, and honestly, our formulation itself was designed for the college athlete because at this point in time, there were a lot of energy drinks that were getting banned by the NCAA. So we wanted to fall within the guidelines of the NCAA because, who's drinking most energy drinks? It's college athletes, it's college students. So that was who we initially designed it for. And part of our initial strategy in terms of channels that we could go down was college campuses. And obviously, as soon as we started that, it was like, okay, we realized Pepsi and Coke, they own everything on college campuses. But, we were able to, on that side of things, we were able to maneuver our way in through some local distributors. The campuses allocate a certain small percentage towards local distributors. So we ended up finding our way in there. So that was one avenue that we went down. And the other was the gyms, which was going great to start. We were basically, selling 2 to 4 cases per month to local gyms, some outside the Northeast, but we wanted to centralize our distribution to the Northeast to start, and we still kind of do that today and prioritize that because we know how quickly it can get capital intensive when you're scaling in retail, especially in beverage. So that was our first strategy that we wanted to approach, and essentially in terms of the awareness that we would have of getting into these gyms and getting into these college campuses and junior programs and all these sorts of things is essentially having the players on those teams or at those schools be our affiliates and essentially through word of mouth really scale the brand that way, which has its pros and cons. And I think part of me feels like affiliate marketing and influencer marketing has gotten very cloudy in terms of having an effective strategy, a go-to-market strategy with affiliate marketing, because nowadays, especially with NIL, it's like a lot of people are looking for a lot of this, you know what I mean, and you're not really getting much back. So being a smaller brand, it's tough to make those kinds of investments because you're not seeing that huge ROI that I feel like 4, 5, 6 years ago, just a couple of years prior to us launching, was a very successful strategy for a lot of beverage brands. I would say initially, first and foremost, it was the local gyms and junior hockey teams, something that we had a background in and that we had contacts with.
That's fascinating. I noticed, I was talking to you, Dylan, right before we started the podcast. You mentioned you guys go live on TikTok a lot. Are you guys doing a lot of live social shopping now? Is that a channel that's working well for you?
Yeah, and I'll let Joe jump in on that, but it's been huge for us. He was kind of the one that got us into it, and really on TikTok as a whole. Like, I mean, so Joey and I are 25. Like, our generation kind of grew up with TikTok, and like Joey and myself knew absolutely nothing about it. I didn't have TikTok. We had a brand like TikTok account, but it was essentially just like what we'd post on Instagram would then just end up on TikTok. We didn't pay attention to it, and we certainly didn't know anything about TikTok Shop. And it wasn't until what, Joe, like last May when we started to be like, okay, how do we get on to this? Like, how do we actually sell on TikTok? And then, yeah, it was probably June by the time we were like had the products available on TikTok Shop, and it was slow. It was tough selling on, like, just no one was really buying it. And then it wasn't until we started doing the lives in August.
Yeah,
Oh,
first part of September
um,
probably. Yeah,
yeah, we started like, okay, we can live stream, we can pin the products, and all of a sudden it was like bang, like sale, sale, sale. We did. Then it was like every day we would do a live for at least an hour and a half, and I think being founder facing like made a huge difference for us. And we really started to look at like, okay, what are these other brands doing? And all of them have a big agency. Some of the big TikTok brands like Lucky Energy, for example, or like Golly, um, Level Up Protein. Like, there's some other big um, supplement or food and beverage brands that really kill it on TikTok, and they're all just have a sales representative or someone with the agency that's selling the products. And so that's how we like got into making the little TikTok sets, as we call it, and like that's where we go live. And I think it's different. You don't see the founders of these brands on a TikTok live, and kind of Joey and I'll be here from 7 to 5, and then we'll hop on TikTok live for an hour and a half at the end of the day, or when we're packing up orders here at the warehouse, we'll throw it on. And that was really what kind of got us started on on TikTok and making an impact was really from the lives. And then we started to get into the creator program. Once we made a few sales, then, TikTok kind of has the opportunities or the tools that can scale with you. So yeah, TikTok's been a pretty powerful platform.
Did you notice a flywheel where like, okay, you go live, you shop, but then follower count increases, engagement goes up? Like, was there more than just selling happening here? Like, was there actual brand building as well?
Yes, 100%. And I think that was what we initially, the traction that we saw and why we kept doing it. Because we didn't see a ton of sales when we first started doing the live selling. It was more so just like, okay, we made a sale. That's great. Let's do it again. And before I mean, we've had some lives where we go, we do our longer live streams and we'll sell, anywhere from our best lives that we've had 40 to 50 units in one live, which is awesome. And our whole thing was when we first started it, first of all, we stayed away from TikTok in general because it was really uncertain what the marketplace was going to look like in the US. And sure enough, too, as soon as we got the product synced to TikTok and everything like that, it got taken off the US marketplace like a few days later. We were like, you got to be kidding me. And then it came back the next day. So everything was all well and good. But yeah, I mean, our follower count, we grew 100% for our follower count within the first month or two, just doing the lives. You have the opportunity to do some giveaways, get cans in hands. And then once we started to really sell on live stream, it's like, there's no customer acquisition costs here. It was a great way for us to improve our blended margins. Because as you guys know, being in the beverage space, I mean, your margins can shrink very, very quick. So we're trying to find any low-hanging fruit that we can, just to improve our margins and be able to scale and eventually get to that point where it's self-sustaining, down the line, which, obviously we're not there yet. We're still, we still have funding rounds and everything like that. It's inevitable. You have to. But for us, the live selling was very powerful just for the community building. And like Dylan said, I mean, the founder-facing content, I think that's where the market has really shifted to, is from this like influencer model to like what's behind the scenes, who's operating this business, what does it look like on a day-to-day. And we found that was a great way to do that was the live selling. And it's kind of an extension of our demos or samplings because people are asking you questions just right there, front and center, and you get to reply to them, essentially in person for the most part. You start to really realize like that cult community and following that you start to build over the course of, 2 to 3 months. And we started to we did a 24-hour live stream actually on Black Friday. Black Friday we were like, you know what, let's do it. We saw some supplement company did a 24-hour live like the week prior, and we were like, Black Friday, what better time to do that? It's the best selling opportunity of the year in CPG and beverage. And yeah, we did it. It was crazy how many units we sold. One, but two, we were like, there are people in here, our followers, that were in there the entire live stream for the full 24 hours. We were like,
that's fucking wild.
That's insane.
Yeah. So to answer your question about the community building aspect, I think that was like something that, inadvertently became a huge opportunity for us through live selling. So
you also mentioned, back when you were, kind of hawking it around campus, you were doing affiliate marketing to some degree. Obviously, TikTok has affiliate marketing built into the whole. Are you guys pursuing that as well, like as the live social?
On TikTok specifically, or
yeah, on TikTok specifically, yeah.
Yeah, so we've had, I think TikTok. One thing that we've realized with TikTok too is like they're growing like this, and their infrastructure and manpower is kind of going like this.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of, we're early for the most part in terms of where the market's going. I mean, I think live selling. I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about it all the time.
Yeah.
But I think live selling is the future. It's already a thing over in Europe and China. Like that's huge over there, and I think it's definitely coming to the U.S. and brands are. By the week, we're seeing tons and tons of brands getting on the platform. But the affiliate marketing, like you have to maintain certain shop scores and performance scores, they call them in TikTok, to be able to stay within that affiliate platform. And if you were to get, say one refund request for a damaged case or whatever it is, you drop below that and you're starting from scratch from the whole thing. So we've battled that for months now, which has been tricky. I think that's kind of one of the things on that platform is like you really have to find and build your loyal community so they keep coming back, leaving good reviews, positive sentiment, and you kind of create that almost like a subscriber base essentially of like retaining customers and still getting new ones. So those those little refund requests or a negative review won't necessarily hurt your shop score, so you can continue your growth, because that hinders growth substantially on the platform. I mean, visibility, 20 to 30% visibility boost based on your shop score if you get to that 3.5 or the 4.0 shop score. and just small changes in that shop score can drastically change revenue numbers on a week-to-week basis. So
Yeah, definitely. I'm asking those questions because, like you said, it's brand new. No one really knows yet. So,
yeah,
like, this is like, front lines, like what's actually happening out there.
yeah, and
Yeah, and
especially
it feels. What were you guys
Go
gonna
ahead,
say?
Jamie.
I was
Oh,
just
I
gonna
was
say
just gonna
like,
say feel. God damn it, Joey. Joey, you talk. It's my podcast. It's your interview. Please speak.
well, no, I was just gonna say, like, as a smaller brand, it's tougher because you don't have an account manager, right, when you first start. And I think that's what a lot of the bigger brands and the agencies they have access to is people on the inside that are working with you behind the scenes to help you get to those thresholds to ultimately grow. So if you're a smaller brand, like, you're fighting day and night just to figure out how to manage and grow on the platform. I mean, we went through probably a dozen different people to get to the energy drink specific category manager at TikTok, and I had a 15-minute meeting with him like 3 weeks in advance, right? So I had 15 minutes to like, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we need resolved, and like thankfully, like, he was able to help us out. But it's those little things that make it difficult for a smaller brand, being on the platform in general. Sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
I was just gonna point out, like, it's amazing what you guys are building on there. But also, like, if you like look at the way you guys have grown the business, and I think it's amazing, like, doing all of the demos when you first launched into Hannaford, doing TikTok lives, going to door and like selling the product. The thing that you guys like continuously do, and what I think more founders should be thinking about, is like, how do you put yourself in the seat where like you can sell the product? Like, yourself, like similar to like sitting at the farmers market. Like, if you have a farmers market booth, like, you're there, you're set up, like, people can come, they can buy your stuff, you can interact with the customer, it's awesome. You're sampling in the grocery store, same thing. I think TikTok live selling, but also like whatnot, any other kind of social selling that's going to like appear over the next like, year or 2 or 3 years, like, those places are becoming like the digital farmers market, and more brands need to stop ignoring them and start being like, this is how you can like legitimately grow your brand. And you guys are a great example. Um, just being able to get on there and, like you said, like selling even like 40 units over a live stream, that's amazing. If you were at a farmer's market and you had set up a booth and taken the time to like go out there, get the product set up, and you had 40 sales over like an hour and a half or 2 hours, you'd be pumped. You'd be like, this
Right.
is awesome.
Yeah.
So it's like this missed opportunity that people like can, I think, consistently ignore when they have like a really good product for D2C. That's my next question though, is like, you guys do sell cans. So like you had mentioned, like, damaged case can get you like docked. Selling cans of beverage online is hard. What are you guys doing right now to like negate like the shipping issues, which I'm
Oh,
sure there's a
man.
lot of.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's across the board too. I mean, that was one thing I took away from my meeting with the account manager at TikTok, was like, all the energy drink, all the beverage brands, they're dealing with the same stuff: damaged product. I guess what you want to call it, like, personal, like, suggestive flavor reviews. You know what I mean? Which is like, if you get you order a chair on TikTok Shop and the thing's broken, it's like, okay, well, that should be a bad review, right? But if you just have a different flavor preference, like, that's kind of a different story, right? So that's something that they're navigating right now too. But yeah, when it comes to shipping product, I mean, everybody is conditioned for free shipping nowadays. Like, that's first and foremost one of the biggest obstacles that we're facing with, shipping through e-commerce, direct to consumer, whatever you want to call it. And, Amazon's kind of ruined that fun for the other channels because they are conditioned for that. Our average shipping label costs are like $11.70 for a 12-pack case. It's a 10-pound box that you're shipping across the country. And when you factor in our consumer demographics, like, it's West Coast, it's Texas, it's Florida. We're shipping outside the Northeast, so it's not all localized to the Northeast region, which makes it difficult. So that's something that we've really considered. And, as soon as we started growing and seeing that substantial growth, I mean, 102% month over month for 3 straight months on TikTok, we're like, we have to find, like, this is just going to eat our margin fast. Although we're growing and it's great to see the revenue numbers and the social follower growth go up, we were like, we need to find some other avenue that is going to be favorable for direct to consumer. So that was why, like I was saying earlier in the podcast that we'll get to, it is the perfect time to talk about it, is finding products in the same vertical that are direct consumer friendly, that are lighter weight, they're easier to ship, they're not really damageable, they're basically bulletproof. So we talked about gummies, we talked about pouches, we talked about all these different things that are great for online. And we actually just launched a pre-order a couple weeks ago now for essentially our formulation and the energy drink in pouch form. So we kind of want to be that all-encompassing like energy brand. So it's caffeine and nootropic pouches, and that is a great scalable product on a platform like TikTok, because that's where we're seeing our most success is on that channel. So we really wanted to dive into it and figure out how we can maximize that. There's opportunities for bundles with the energy drink, since okay, one day you might not want an energy drink, you might want a caffeine pouch or something like that, and they kind of go hand in hand. So that's kind of something that we're hedging against that issue when we're treating our online channels as an awareness tool for us. Scaling outside the Northeast is going to be generally reliant on our customer base through our online channels. Like I said, like figuring out, okay, a lot of our customers are coming from California, a high percentage of them. So if we're going out to retailers on the West Coast, it's like, hey, here's our consumer demographics through our online channels. Like that's a great door opening opportunity for us to get the drink into retail in those locations, because that's where we'll see our most opportunity for growth.
So you guys obviously mentioned doing pouches, which I think is genius.
Yep.
That's a great growth vector. Are you guys going to do mixes as well, like Elements doing and things like that? Are you considering that vector as well? Because again, bulletproof, right? We're trying to make something that doesn't damage during shipment, obviously.
Exactly. I would love to do like the stick packs. We have heard that they can be difficult to fill, and like the consistency of them. Like, I mean, we've even seen it. We were big fans when we were in college. We would get the raw nutrition electrolyte sticks. Like we just call them C-bum sticks. I don't even know what they're actually called, but they were just like
They're C-bum
raw
sticks.
nutrition. Yeah, exactly. Like, raw nutrition electrolyte powder, and we would notice that like some of them were damn near full. Like there was probably 10 grams of powder in there, and then other ones it's like a little like, and you're like, well, how the hell? The other one had like 4 times the amount of powder in it. So, and we have heard from other brands as well that like the consistency of it can be tough, but that's definitely something that we'd love to explore. Yeah, shipping beverage. I mean, it's 97% water. Like you're essentially just paying to ship water, which is tough. I think we kind of went back and forth when we first started out. Like we said, we were doing the gyms and kind of transitioned towards the C stores, and obviously we were growing on our own Shopify platform before we got into the TikTok side of things. And it's tough. Started online, and then we got our retail opportunity, and then we learned how expensive retail is, because you factor in your distributor, and then obviously the store marks it up, and they got to make their share, and then they charge a slotting fee, and they want whatever. Some of them can be reasonable, and some of them are not reasonable. So you learn, and Shaw's, for example, is probably the best example. Like it's $10,000 per SKU to get it in. Like we can't do that as a small brand. So we quickly learned how expensive retail is, and then it's like, well, okay, well, it's like six one, half dozen the other on D2C. Instead of paying a distributor and slotting fees, now we're paying shipping for all the customers, because, like Joey said, everyone is accustomed for free shipping, which is tough. I mean, shit, we could sit here and tell stories all day, but like we've had customers like, I will never buy your product, like $9.99 shipping fee, and it's like, well, if you get 2 cases, it's free, but we just do that to encourage, higher order value, and like at least cover some of it. I mean, we can't ship 2 cases for $9.99 anyways, and that's when it's free. But yeah, we've had so many customers like, I will never pay this. You're charging shipping. It's like, well, what do you think? It's free? Like, yeah, it's crazy. So it's beverage as a whole is tough.
It is
It's a
tough.
very tough space, but yeah, there's things we can do to hedge against it. And yeah, I wanted to add too earlier when we were talking about the TikTok side of things. I think a big thing that they're starting to realize is how many other food and beverage brands are growing on the page and on the platform. And it's different, like Joey said, selling a chair or like some toy or something. Like, okay, if it gets broken, like, understandably, but that doesn't apply to food and beverage even more so, because our damage rate is obviously a lot higher than shipping whatever other kind of product. But yeah, just the personal preference side of things and how that indicates negative review rate, and their platform is so built, and their metrics and even their algorithm is kind of all encompassing for CPG as a whole, where I think they need to learn, and they're starting to. We've noticed some changes too, with how they run things, but like they need to learn that, okay, food and beverage is separate from your typical like CPG products, and there has to be different rules for it, because yeah, it's easy to get punished, not, I don't want to say unfairly, but unfairly compared to a non-consumable product, just for personal preference. And yeah, the damage side of things makes beverage even more so. But yeah, I think it's something that's ever evolving, and if TikTok can kind of grow their infrastructure alongside their growth that they're having on the platform, it could be a huge option for other brands. I mean, the exposure we've seen just from doing a combination of the live selling and being more active and putting more emphasis on the platform is pretty crazy.
So Larry Ellison, listen up if you're watching this
I know,
podcast.
seriously.
Seriously.
I like to talk to
Listen
that
the
guy.
fuck up, Larry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got a few things I'd like to say to him.
I've a long fucking list. Hey, bro, can you stop being fucking dumb? Anyways, please keep pushing Underdog on TikTok though. That would be the top of the list. What I like, I guess like where my head goes with that, like when you're talking about like the reviews and getting unfairly punished, it's like it'd be cool if they could not show your product to people like that person that reviewed you poorly, and then the people that reviewed you well. It's like, hey, those are clearly people that like what we're selling. Can you show them our live streams? Because yeah, like you said with food, it's like it is a lot of personal preference, right? Like some people are like, hey, I don't want to eat like that donut, but like someone else is like, that donut sounds awesome. It's the same donut, and it may be good, it may be bad, I don't know, but it's like it's completely down to somebody's like personal preference on whether or not they like food or a drink or anything like that.
Yeah, 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 and I think part of it too, like for our formulation in general, and I think if I had to guess, a lot of the healthier alternative energy drinks or just food and beverage products in general face similar scrutiny and feedback from customers that, especially in the energy drink space, one, there's a negative connotation to energy drinks first and foremost. So we're already off to a bad foot in that regard, because people are expecting a drink that's going to taste like a candy, a super sweet product where it's more of a smoother, it's a lighter taste, it's lighter carbonation. So I think part of our strategy, especially moving forward, is like really trying to hone in on that with our marketing, with our packaging design. Right now our current packaging design on our cans is like, I think that's one thing that we need to work on, is the balance between the underdog ethos and that real mentality that you have, which is a hardcore kind of athlete, sport focused vision. And then there's that healthier alternative side, which is more of a simplistic, a modern design. And having that blended together into one is very difficult to do, because at the end of the day, like if you see a product on the shelf, like you need to know what it is when you look at it. Like I know what I'm picking up right now. And I think that's one thing that we can really hone in on and focus on improving in the coming productions that we do.
To shift gears, I want to go back to something you guys said earlier. You mentioned that you started with like a clothing brand, like apparel. Have you guys ever thought about like relaunching that? Is that something that's on your radar? Like as you think about things that you can ship on TikTok, like because someone's like buying it from the TikTok live stream. Have you guys considered that at all?
Yeah, I mean, we still have clothing and stuff like that. It's just more of a complementary product that we do. Like we have it on our website. We had it on TikTok until you get down to a certain quantity available and inventory levels, and you got to take it down, or else they'll schwack you for that too. Yeah, I mean, we have it as an opportunity of just like a walking billboard, essentially. Sometimes we'll do certain live streams where it's like, okay, if you buy 2 or 3 cases, we'll throw in a free shirt with your order, which is great. It incentivizes more sales on the drink side of things. But the other is like, they get that shirt, it's high quality, they enjoy it, they wear it in the gym, they wear it down the street, whatever it is, and it's just an opportunity for that awareness tool that we always talk about, because we have to try to find, like I said, going back to being a smaller brand, it's like you have to find almost like that guerrilla marketing style of, what's going to get your brand out there, how are you going to be different from other brands, and I think one, obviously it's your products, but two, it's how you approach the market from a general standpoint. So yeah.
Sorry guys, my recording got stopped there, but I'm back.
Where the fuck did you go?
Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm back.
No worries.
So obviously, like you mentioned, small brand, right? Capital in the beverage space is kind of a given, right? Everyone knows it's a capital intensive category. Mm-hmm. So where are you guys at now? Have you raised it all, and are you planning to raise again in the near future?
Yeah. So we raised, like I said, for that first round of production that we did, couple angel investors, friends and family. We raised $200,000 just to get it off the ground, and that was like really pinching pennies. So I don't know. I mean, in my initial research on the market in general, I was like, yeah, you can get a beverage off the ground with $100,000. BS. It's not possible, especially if you want to do it right. If you want to fail the next day, yeah, sure, you can launch with $100,000 and you'll be out of business in the next week. You know what I mean? But yeah, we're in the middle of a $1.5 million raise right now. Our first, and this is kind of another hurdle that we've faced, and something where I've kind of gone indifferent to influencer marketing in general, is that we had an influencer deal that was going live last spring. We did a massive production run in anticipation for this launch, and we ended up having to step back from the partnership. So then we had inventory in excess that wasn't really in our general projections for that next year or two. And then you have to face all the repercussions of that, right? Storage fees, 3PL fees are outrageous, and we've honestly switched a lot of our fulfillment, especially for TikTok, internally, because you get dinged for 2 hours late on delivery, or the quality control is a big issue that we had to confront, and that's why we ended up doing internal while we were smaller, while we were still scaling, to find that partner that can really scale with us. And when it comes to raising, like we're in that fundraising round right now where we're in that middle of angel investors and family office to venture, right? And it's like, you want to get up to this range, which, we've heard our fair share of horror stories with venture capital in general, but that's where the big money is. That's where a lot of your opportunity for growth comes from. So it's tough. It's tough trying to get these $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 checks to reach a $1.5 million raise. And a lot of people that I talk to, we have a broker that we work with now who's on Wall Street for 30 years. He's like, this is the hardest raise you'll ever do, because it's just you're selling a vision. You're selling the founder vision and where you guys want to be in the next 3 to 5 years. Whereas when you get to that Series A or Series B, it's like, okay, this is our revenue over the past 3 years. This is where we can see us going. Like right now, it's you have your revenue numbers doing crazy things because one chain could drastically change your revenue overnight. One partnership could change your revenue drastically overnight. So it's really tough to forecast that and understand the value of your company, but two, like getting people interested and contributing and being a part of the journey. So obviously we're like halfway through the round right now, which is great. But a lot of that was put towards that initial production, that big production that we did, which now we've just been our marketing expenses and the real growth levers that we can push to move the inventory has just been, throttled a little bit until we can complete the round.
Are you guys raising convertible note? Are you raising safe? Like what's the, why are you doing everything?
Raising on a safe. Yep. Yeah. So, which, obviously that's probably one of the more common ways to do it. We've been thankful. We have a great network of investors, existing investors that we have now, that really believe in us and in the brand and what we can really do. And I love talking to other founders, other beverage founders in general, because you get to pick their brain of like, okay, obviously they've raised money, right? There's very few brands that haven't raised money in the beverage space to really scale. And, you kind of learn like what avenues you want to avoid at all costs. I've heard just about every story under the sun, and it also makes you realize like it could always be worse, because there's just some things that I've heard that it's just like you don't want to be in that position, but at the end of the day, it's like you have to pivot. You have to find ways to, it's adversity. It's facing adversity. I think the beverage space really enhances that. Food and beverage space, it's like you're facing an obstacle, you're facing a hurdle. It's like you better jump on it fast, because that could escalate, and a domino effect of issues for the next 3, 6, even 12 months, right? So. But yeah, it's tricky. It's not easy, that's for sure. Especially being younger founders. I mean, when we started this, we were 19 as a clothing brand. When we were doing our first raise, we were just turned 22 years old. So it's really tough to be in that environment and step in front of a high net worth individual and really sell your vision that you have for a brand that hasn't necessarily proved itself, especially on that first launch where it's like we have a concept, we have a product, but here's our vision. And I think that was one thing that Dylan and I did really well, was really planning things out strategically, but also being able to convey that to our audience of investors, of distributors, of retailers. We had a 40-page business plan. We had a 15 to 20-page slide deck that we knew like the back of our hand. And a lot of it comes down to passion too. I think that's one thing that I've heard, and even in just conversations I always listen for, is like, is this person passionate about what they're doing? You can really tell through just a conversation of like they're really invested in this, you know what I mean? And I think that's one thing that holds true for us today, regardless of the obstacles that we face, is you always hold that passion for what you're building. So, yeah.
Yeah, especially at your level, I feel like investors are looking at the team and
Yeah.
maybe less or more so than the product, right? They're looking to invest in you guys personally
Hmm.
versus like what you're doing because you don't know what the next hit product's going to be, right?
Yeah.
And it could be something like, hey, maybe the pouches take off and that's the business, right? You don't know yet.
Yeah. And
I
we
think at a
always,
smaller level, dude, like product market fit is found all over the place all the time. And then the team and like the execution and like sometimes just luck in general hinder the thing from becoming whatever it was supposed to become.
yeah.
Yeah, to your point, Daniel, like that's what people are looking at for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
betting on the jockey, not the horse.
Yeah, and especially in today's day and age now, like just with all the technology and AI that is out there, like markets are shifting like that. Like if you don't act, and as soon as we came up with the idea for the pouches, we were like, at this point, there were no energy drink brands, there were no other brands that were thinking about doing this pouch concept in addition to a product that they already had, right? And this was back in September. We were like, we got to jump on this now. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, now Bum Energy's coming out with caffeine pouches. You got Newtonic coming out with pouches. Lucky Energy has talked about coming out. It's so it's like a lot of it is like you got to jump on things fast. But yeah, to your point, Jimmy, I mean, if product market fit and like really understanding that like your flagship product could be something that you create in 2 years, and we always, Dylan and I always joke about this, but like American Express, they started off as a freight company and now they're one of the more successful credit card companies out there. You know what I mean? So it's interesting how that really plays out in the journey. And part of it is like, survival of the fittest, king of the hill, like who's gonna be around the longest, who's gonna fight the most battles. I think that's what it really comes down to. So
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like CPG in general, across like all verticals, beverage, food, like whatever you want to call it, for the most part, it's actually very different than like restaurants. It is just like kind of like a long game of like who can stick around the longest. Because if you have stuck around in consumer for more than like 15, 20 years, generally like you're pretty successful. Like, cause usually a good product is like table stakes, right? Like the buyers will tell you that, like the distributors will tell you that. You get that feedback from the customer initially. You know if your product sucks. It's usually pretty obvious after a while. There are some people that scale and launch shitty products. Those people usually have a lot of money, and we all know how that ends because I've watched it end like that over and over again. But like generally speaking, good product is table stakes. So like you stick around long enough, you get in front of enough eyeballs, you start to generate momentum. You'll have people that buy your product, they won't think about it for like 2 years. They'll see it again and be like, oh shit, I love that. Grab it off the shelf. Like that stuff, like that flywheel builds like over decades as opposed to like quickly. Whereas like with a restaurant, you open, you find out if you're good, it pops, and then like a lot of restaurants then decline
Yep.
for the rest of time. Like it has like a time limit. Whereas with a consumer product, like it's in reverse. Like the time limiting factor is it doesn't exist. It can go forever. The question is whether or not you survive long
yeah,
enough to find out if it's going to work out. And I've always found that really interesting because it's like this dichotomy of, okay, you have a like a chasm or a valley that you have to get through, which most brands will never get through. How big the valley is also determined by like you and your product and your goals and all that stuff, right? Like you can, I think people don't realize you could survive and like have like a profitable business at like 5, 10 million in revenue in CPG. Maybe not with every category, but like with most of them, like you can figure it out, right? Like staying regional, sticking with the right retailers. You don't pay slotting fees twice. But
yeah,
like once you're in there, like things start to like work out. But it's like, yeah, it's a question of like, can you actually make it to that point, right? Of like, oh, I've been in this retailer for like 6 years and obviously we never had to pay slotting fees again and our turns are good and they love us and we love them and like things are working out. Like you had to make it the 6 years to get there. And like usually people underestimate, to your point earlier, Joey, how much money it takes to get off the ground and then get there. And then once they're there, that's when people I think start to make mistakes around like profitability. But like the question that I think most people should be asking themselves is like, do they have the what it takes like grit wise to just get to that point? Simply getting there or something getting where you guys are at is so incredibly hard that actually is probably the biggest moat that people are always like, what's the moat in consumer? I'm like, the moat is like it's fucking hard to go from year 1 to year 5.
Yeah.
And if you've gotten to year 5, most likely everyone else went bankrupt or failed. So now you're
Yeah.
just doing your thing. It is fascinating to watch because you watch it happen over and over again. And I haven't been doing this that long. None of us have, but like it plays out over like the course of like 3-4 years. So I've
Yeah.
watched it happen like multiple times now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Go to
Yeah.
Expo West 5 years ago, there were different brands than there were this time. There'll be different
Yeah.
brands in 5 years,
Yeah.
other than the people that have really big booths.
Yeah. Seriously, I know. We were at a conference in Dallas recently, an ECRM event. I don't know if you've ever heard of ECRM, but it's a great
Yeah,
opportunity to meet with retailers and buyers and really, sell your vision, talk about your product, and just get in front of them because it's so hard to get in front of buyers in general. And we were
it
talking
is.
to one of the brands that were there, and they actually launched at Expo a year ago, and they had access to capital right away through a venture firm, right? And their trajectory and how much growth they had in just 1 year was absolutely insane. And to your point of like, you can launch a bad product with a ton of capital. I don't know if their product's good or bad. I have no idea. But just in
We'll
terms of
find out.
yeah, we'll find out pretty soon. We'll see if they're at Expo next year, right?
When
But
something, my point about that is when something burns really, really hot,
yeah,
you get to the end of the candlestick faster.
yeah,
And when you get to the end, you'll find like so like everybody
test
gets to
faster.
fuck around and
Yeah,
find out, right? Yeah. Like you get to test faster. Everyone gets to fuck around and find out. Everybody could say, like, I'm gonna launch 20,000 doors next year all at once. I got $20 million in my pocket. I'm gonna like send it. Like we're gonna supply all the stores, we're gonna pay the slotting, we're gonna do the trade spend. Trade spend's gonna be at 40% of revenue because we're trying to like make this thing work. You will find out if people hate your product. And you will have spent 20 fucking $1 million
yeah,
finding
that's a
out
gamble.
when you yeah, you could have spent $250,000, maybe less, like tested it, and then you know, like, is my product shit or not? And you wouldn't have spent $20 million. That's my point
Yeah.
around that conversation.
Yeah, and that's the thing
100%.
too is like you learn so much about the process of just like testing in small bits. Like if we launched Dylan, like if we launched with $20 million with our first iteration of our product,
Yeah, you lit it on
we'd be out of
fire.
business. We would
I
be
was
out of
just gonna
business.
say, I was just gonna add, like, I'm so glad we didn't have money. Yeah, being 22, if we walked into $1 million, like if someone would have taken a gamble and been like, "Here's $1 million," it would have been gone. It would have been like we didn't know what we were doing, and we looked at the product that we had launched then, and at the time we're like, "Yeah, this is fucking sick. Like this is awesome." And we look back and we're like, "What the fuck were we thinking?" Like, so if we had money back then, we would probably be 6 feet under. So I'm
Dude,
glad we had
money
the money now.
amplifies. Yeah, it amplifies mistakes and it also amplifies like wins. So like it goes either way. You can
Yeah,
either get all of the money, completely amplifies an absolute disaster, or it's going to amplify like the greatest strategy on earth. I mean, the thing
yeah,
is you don't know until you start like kind of figuring it out. I think that's why people should try to like kind of test in stages. And even if you do raise the capital, try to continue to run lean. Like
Hmm.
so many people don't do that, and then they get themselves way in over their skis. And once you've turned it up, and I learned this the hard way. I think a lot of people do, but like once you've turned up the ad spend, turned up the like 3PL relationship, like entrenched yourself in some things that are like permanent overhead, you can't just like turn the ads off. You can, but like you don't want to find out what happens when you do. Like
yeah,
there's
yeah,
there's so many things that like they become like part of the business model and then they're permanent.
yeah, yeah.
Cool guys. Well, I think we've been doing this for like an hour. I have another meeting, so I'm gonna try to like not be late to that. Um, guys, can you tell everyone where to find you at? And then like if you have anything cool coming out, I know obviously you guys have like some product innovation, but like anything you want to shout out, please do it now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we have our website, drinkunderdog.com. Obviously, right now, TikTok Shop is a big channel for us as well. So you can find us at underdog_brand on all social platforms, though. Main platforms are Instagram and TikTok right now. We are available on Amazon as well. That's one channel that we're really focusing on, just in terms of the convenience aspect for the consumer, and also on the business side of things, it makes a little bit more sense. So we're also available on Amazon.
Sick. Guys, this has been great. Thank you
Fantastic
so
episode.
much
Thank you
for
guys.
yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm gonna go buy some. Please don't when you ship it to me, don't let it break. No, I really don't care. It could be dented and I wouldn't care.
We'll put
I'll
a
still drink
bulletproof
it.
box.
Yeah, please
Yeah.
just, we're gonna put foam around it, make it real fucking hard to break. Like, yeah, why don't you do that, guys? And you're like, why don't we make our product cost $100 million? That would be awesome. People have asked us when it comes to like no bake's product, like our cookie dough melts in the summertime when we ship it. It's an absolute nightmare. My friends that have chocolate companies, same deal. And everyone's always like, well, why don't you put it in like dry ice and like a cooler box? And I'm like, have you ever looked at the cost of the box? Just the box, not even the dry ice. Like,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
look at it. You get back to me, like, what should I charge someone to buy some jars of cookie
yeah.
dough on the internet?
Yeah,
Seven
people
hundred
complain about
dollars.
how much the price is going to be, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you
Mhm.
raise your
And
prices.
you're like, one jar of cookie dough is $25. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, yes, this can right here. This is $12. Like, it's not going to work out. Uh, cool, guys. Well, I will see you all later.
Thanks,
Thanks for
guys.
tuning in.
Thanks for having us on, guys.